and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Ms. Capabianca.
Here.
Mr. Corey.
Here.
Ms. DeFreitas.
Here.
Lito.
Here.
Here.
Papiano. Here. Ms. Hona here. Mr. Kisco.
Here.
Mr. Minichia.
Here.
Ms. Richardson. Here. Ms. Toder.
Here.
Mayor Carbone. Mr. Barlow.
Here.
Ms. Boisbear. Here. Ms. Ferguson. Zuski.
Here.
Ms. Lebomsky. Here. Ms. Shaw.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved. Well, I have can I just ask a question?
Let it get seconded
Oh,
and then you
sorry,
can
I thought
question.
that.
Someone want to second it? Thanks. Gary.
Can we just modify the adjustment to, can we have a discussion of what happened last night in terms of our group?
The Board of Finance.
Meeting, just so everybody's aware of where we ended up, what we can think about going down the road and how we try to work together with the cities. Make things
You
work.
want to amend your motion, adding adding yeah,
7M.
7M.
We put the word brief in front of it.
Brief Board of Finance update. Okay, would you second your motion, Armin?
No, that was Nikki. that
Oh,
said-
sorry,
Oh,
Nikki.
Nikki.
Will
Yeah,
you second
second.
yours?
Brief, like John said.
All those in favor?
Aye.
School community service, public participation. The board invites members of the community to speak on topics to be addressed in the agenda or other topics of interest. Your name and address must be stated at the beginning of your comment. The board will not allow comments regarding specific staff members, parents, students, or personal grievances. Courtesy is expected in this limited public forum. The participating time will be limited to 3 minutes per person and 10 minutes overall to guarantee efficient operation of the entire meeting. Ms. Patterson.
Liz Patterson, 382 Charles Street. I just wanted to start by saying that I'm sure, like many other people, I cannot always come to these meetings, or I cannot always stay for the full duration. So I just wanted to obviously help everybody understand that and know that it is important to us that they're available online. And I thank you that they're available, and the alley is getting them, I guess, eventually on the drive individually clicked, because the Vimeo is hard to deal with sometimes that late. But thank you for making that available to us. Several weeks ago, my 8-year-old came home and told me she had a vision and hearing screening at her school. And I have to admit, I was a little upset. We get email notifications for all sorts of things. So why weren't the parents notified that the medical screening would be taking place on our children? I called my daughter's school, and the woman I spoke with said, well, it's in the handbook. When I pressed the issue that there was no notice, she said, well, we never know when these things are going to take place because of scheduling, and there's really no way to let you know ahead of time. Now, under normal circumstances, this would not even faze me. I remember doing these screenings as a child, and I'm sure you all remember as well. But these are not normal circumstances, and we are living in unprecedented times. The governor is promoting vaccine clinics to be set up in schools across Connecticut. I told the woman on the phone, I said, it's a slippery slope to perform medical screenings on kids without letting the parents know first. And I'm just worried about kids and vaccines in school facilities. And she just laughed at me and said, that's never going to happen here. You don't never have to worry about that. Well, I looked into it further, as you all know that I tend to do, and I found the World Health Organization document mapping out obtaining consent for vaccinations in minors. In this document, the WHO defines implied consent. And I didn't know about this, so let me inform you. The summary of implied consent. Implied consent is when parents are informed of imminent vaccination through some sort of communication. Subsequently, the physical presence of the child with or without a parent at the site is considered implied consent to vaccination. Parents who choose not to consent are expected to ensure that their child does not attend school on a vaccination day. And so I hope you're able to connect the dots with me. We have vaccination clinics being set up in schools. We have the World Health Organization confirming precedent that implied consent is all that's needed to vaccinate minors. And then we have a school district that doesn't always notify parents when medical screenings are taking place. So I hope that I have your attention. I spoke to the Torrington Area Health District and the Connecticut Department of Health, and both agencies said that they were well aware of this WHO precedent. So this is not an overreaction, but this is a wake-up call. Every parent who might think that their rights are slowly being stripped away over the last couple of years should be very concerned about this. And under no circumstances should vaccines be distributed in school settings when they're so widely available for free at the doctor's office and pharmacies and clinics that you're offering. Unfortunately, it's still happening across Connecticut, and students are being vaccinated without true parental consent. And you can say this, hey, this would never happen here, but as a parent protecting my child, hoping for the best is just not a luxury I have anymore. So I urge this district to block any attempt to hold vaccine clinics in school settings. And lastly, I just wanted to address the bylaws, your board bylaws. At the last regular meeting, Fiona mentioned that the board is prohibited from commenting on public testimony. And while I understand that rule might be well-intended for the sake of timing or fairness or not wanting the liability of responding off the cuff, this puts an unnecessary restraint on our board members. And a simple addition to the bylaws saying response to public comment will be at the discretion of the board is all you would need to add. And I've been to many other districts with Board of Ed meetings, and that's what they do, and that's what they say at the beginning of their comments. Sometimes a speaker just wants to be heard, but sometimes a speaker has valid concerns that or questions that can be easily answered. And maybe the speaker just wants a commitment from the board to look into a matter further. When we've tried other ways to communicate and phone calls and emails go unanswered, this really is our last resort to get a message across. The ability, not the necessity, but the ability to hear from you guys would go a long way to show the public that our comments are more than just something you all have to sit through. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Ally, is there anyone on the public line?
Nope.
Recognitions.
We're very excited this evening. We have many students who are being honored. We have been doing a lot of recognitions with our high school. That's how we kick off the year. So we're working our way down to all of our different levels. And we are going to start with the middle school. This time I'm going to have my principals or assistant principals come join me up here. So Mr. Scott, if you would like to join me up here to honor our middle school students. We have 2 middle school students who are being honored this evening, and they are both members of the National Junior Honor Society. We have our National Junior Honor Society President, Nathan Pepler, and National Junior Honor Society Vice President, Sophia Perlman. So they are welcome to come on up, and we want to say a few wonderful words about the 2 of you. Nathan and Sophia have coordinated with PTO on Food Drive and Spirit Week. They have planned, advertised, organized this event, as well as the pickup and delivery of the food. Their next project will be organized in the TMS Care Closet, which will involve cleaning, promoting donations for this cause. They are always willing to work to get things accomplished, Nathan and Sophia love to brainstorm and put their ideas into action, which has enhanced the TMS school community this year. So congratulations. Oh, wow. Overachievers, they already finished the third closet, Mr. Swenson. Fine, want to turn up here, we're going to start alphabetical. And we're going to start with Forbes for our elementary schools. And we are honoring Brianna Chigrin. She's a valuable member of the Forbes community. Yes. Always say some really nice things about all of your accomplishments. She's an active member of the student leadership program. Brianna has also been recognized for exemplary behavior both on the bus and inside of the classrooms at Forbes. Brianna has been in school every day this year, congratulations, and has a fantastic academic record. She is consistent. She consistently demonstrates respect, responsibility, and kindness for everyone at Forbes. Brianna is also an active member of the Forbes band, displaying her expertise on the flute. We are very proud of Brianna's efforts this year at Forbes School. Dr. Buchanan, if you can join me up here, please. We are honoring two of Dr. Buchanan's students, a fourth grader and a fifth grader. Okay, well, our fourth grader is Enos Sarah. She is not here this evening, but she is a smart and creative fourth grader, a friend to all, kind, thoughtful, and helpful. Every day she demonstrates respect, responsibility, and safety. Enos is respectful to her teachers, classmates, and everyone in the building. She is a responsible Southwest dragon who cares about her grades and completes all assignments. She works well with others and willingly lends a hand to her classmates. Enos has been a great role model for others this year. So congratulations. And our next student is a fifth grader, Peyton Sutherland. Come on down while we. Peyton is a kind-hearted friend, recently recognized by her peers by being voted on to student council. Peyton demonstrated leadership by finding ways to improve Southwest School. In September, Peyton asked for permission to hold the door open at the bus loop exit so that students could exit more safely and more smoothly. Each day, she greets others with a good morning and ends the day with "have a great afternoon." It is extremely rare to find Peyton without a smile, reflecting her positive energy and engaging spirit. Peyton is a great asset to Southwest. All good. For Torrington School, we are honoring Jonathan Pimentel. Jonathan, come on down. Jonathan has the job of being the building gardener who takes care of our plants by watering them, removing dead leaves, and watching them grow. He has demonstrated leadership, independence, and self-regulation while taking on his new role. We are very proud of Jonathan and what he's been able to accomplish this year at Torrington School. Mr. Michelson, come on down. Isabella Ayala is the person, the student who we are recognizing. Isabella is a hardworking kindergarten student from Mrs. Lopez's class. Not only does she put her best effort into her work, she is also very caring and kind to others while completing any task. Isabella is a curious student, consistently exploring something new, and is very excited to learn each day at local level. Very short. special word for one of our board members who is moving on to city council. Mr. Minchuk, come join us down here, please. Okay, that easy, right? Mr. Benitez has been a Board of Education member and the chairman of the budget committee for the last several years. I want to thank him for his dedication and his years of service, I think since 2012? 16. That was long enough, right? And especially if you're on budget committee, anybody who knows the budget process, it's like meeting after meeting after meeting every week. Crazy. Serving on the board is a tireless job, especially during the budget season, for all of this hard work and dedication to our district and really having such an impact on students' lives and the district as a whole. And thanks for your leadership and for your years.
Thank you.
On behalf of the board, your sensible approach, to be an individual on the board and your willingness to work with everyone on the board has been an asset that is been great. Really wish you the best of luck.
Very much.
Pre-COVID,
Thank you so much. Thanks for coming. Don't feel like you have to stay. It's
Okay. I thought
I'll see you there.
all right, so.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, maybe center area. It's just that we. Yeah, no, I'm just gonna go to the next slide.
Superintendent's report.
So November is a very, very busy, short month. We had PD early in the month. It was very, very productive. I know Sue's going to speak more about the day, but we were so happy about the feedback that we received. And I just wanted to thank the staff for working so hard to help us move forward as a district. It was great. Veterans Day, as board members know, and I'm sure you're going to do your reports about your specific schools. It was wonderful for all of us to participate in that. Kathy joined us at Mission. We were able to be a part of the parade route. Very exciting, and we got some really positive feedback from veterans and how honored they felt being recognized as well. And we were our Vogel was on Channel 3 once again this year, which was awesome. Rachel Placentino usually coordinates that event. Really wonderful. There is a ribbon cutting, more to celebrate this Friday at noon for any board members who want to come. And that is to celebrate the new equipment that we have. The rest of the equipment was donated in the fitness trail cycle. And so we have those last few pieces, and we have our donors coming to that event as well. I know Dr. Curry really has been instrumental. He's our medical advisor. He will be there and to have some community members fit together, who's been our partner through a lot of these various projects. It'll be a nice event. Vaccinations, I know the parent mentioned vaccinations. We do not have, nor do we plan to have any vaccinations at our sites, our school sites. However, Charlotte Hungerford has been a fabulous partner with us throughout this process, even when we were doing the staffing vaccinations. And they're most recently on November 13th, they did one on Saturday for the 5 through 11-year-olds, and very successful. They had 180 students, not all Torrington students, certainly. They were also serving the surrounding regions, and Brian Medial is going to get me those numbers in terms of our particular students. And then coming up, he also, which I will get out to parents, sent me like Big Y in Torrington, the Walgreens in Torrington, Walmart. A lot of facilities are offering the 5 to 11-year-olds, the Walgreens in Thomaston. So just a variety of different ways for our families to get the vaccine should they want to for ages 5 through 11. So very, very helpful. And I think that there obviously is a big push for that. We just want our families to be supported, and that information will go out. In addition, just more celebrations. Torrington Public Schools is one of 44 districts out of the 169 chosen to participate in a program called Voice for Change. That is a process to really gather student input. It's really a civic change initiative that's being offered through the Connecticut Department of Education to empower high school students to propose and vote on how more than 1.5 million federal relief funds will be invested to reimagine Connecticut schools. So students are going to submit proposals from each one of the schools or the districts that were designated, outlining how they would spend $20,000 in their particular school. So the proposals that are deemed eligible to receive these ARP ESSER funds, another pot of money, not to be confused with our ARP ESSER funds, will be voted on in March. So we're looking forward to that. I'll share more as we gather more information through our high school and through Mrs. LaGursis, what's happening with our students and how they're moving forward. In addition, the high school is also one of 19 districts participating in the FAFSA challenge. And FAFSA is the free application for federal student aid. And it's really, this whole program is to target students so that we can help them and their families complete the college application, to improve post-secondary access to extended learning, to close the opportunity gaps among high school students. And the state has said that participating schools will pilot innovative strategies to help students and families complete the FAFSA. So very similar to the LEAP and what they're doing in terms of social, emotional, and connecting families. Now we're trying to do it on a secondary level, really targeting our students who want to go to college, but maybe really don't understand those forms. If you've ever had to fill them out for your own children, you know they're hideous. Any state forms are not so fun. So this really helps. And just a fact that the state put out is that more than 70% of Connecticut jobs require some form of education beyond high school. So the completion of the FAFSA can really help. And then just, we're in the month of November. Happy Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving's my favorite holiday. I feel very, very grateful to work with wonderful staff and students and families, and truly blessed. We have an incredible community, incredible board members. I think that we make it work. Everybody has a vision to move our students forward and to be able to live out their potential. So many thanks to all of you, and I hope that you have some time to enjoy with family and friends.
Any questions on the superintendent's report? Nikki?
We had heard early on about some kind of like of the behavioral challenges that we were seeing, whether it was at the elementary, I know, even at the upper grades. What is the state kind of that situation at this point?
Yeah, we just met with our alliance representatives, and they were sharing with us that they're seeing this across the state. Really just the effects of COVID. So for 2 basically years, year and a half, students were in school, out of school, at home. Some were just remote that whole entire time. And I don't think we could see at the time, I don't think we could have foreseen how much it was going to impact our students in a really tough way. I mean, it really has hit home. So you're really at the lower levels trying to get students to just, and I know that Laura and her team have really gone into our K-3 schools to make sure that we're really focusing in on the real basics of being in school. But for all of those transition years too, because if you're thinking about a seventh grader now, really coming in, missing all those developmental years, probably more like a fifth grader. If you're thinking of a ninth grader, you're really talking more like a seventh grader. And it was funny because we were meeting with two of our state representatives, and one of them said, you know, for those of you who have had teenagers or know of teenagers in your family, that whole stage is really tough. And the students want independence. Well, we gave them independence, and now we're trying to rein it back in, right? So you're really trying to give them some constraints and some boundaries and some guidelines, and now it's that push and pull. That's really tough. So we're seeing that statewide, we're hearing it nationwide. Every meeting that I go to, I know Sue goes to, it's hard, and we're looking for all kinds of strategies for sharing with each other and trying to problem solve so that we can really get our students in school, really focused, back on track. But it's tough.
Are we seeing any sort of improvements from some of those strategies? I know you guys talked a little bit about even at the younger levels, kind of taking it back to the basics, right? Like how you sit in a chair. Like, are we seeing, some improvements there? Is even with the additional resources that we kind of have added? I'm just trying to get
Sure.
a sense.
Yeah,
a
I'm gonna
sense of
have Laura
progress.
talk a little bit about the K-3, and then I'll talk about some of the other. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay,
She's
so
squeaky.
just
Squeaky.
again.
Oh, no.
Yes, I think that we have. I think, I know at Torrington, and Georgia can probably speak better to this than I can, but they worked hard with our BCBA and with putting in really backstepping and going back to the basics. And this is how you behave in school, and this is what you do. And what I'm hearing is that we still have behavioral challenges, but it's more a handful of real toughies that everybody has to really pay attention to and maybe put some deeper interventions in place for them. And that overall, excuse me, the overall environment is getting excuse me.
So we are seeing that in terms of the K-3, and then very similar to what Laura was saying, even about the K-3, there are a handful of students who are still having difficult time at the secondary. Really, whether it's behavior or it's, yeah, we're getting you a cough drop, behavior or
Laura?
attendance.
I have
Oh, yes, thank you. I don't have COVID, I promise.
No.
Oh, good.
Thank you.
Yeah, she's just been struggling. But really, it's a handful of students. It's not a lot. They're really having a tough time adjusting. We're trying to address their needs. Really does help to have the extra BCBA, the extra social workers. We have the behavior internists. We have the registered behavior techs. All of those pieces, everybody's busy constantly. The extra social work at the high school will help as well. But what we were seeing, even in terms of like the chronic absenteeism, the Alliance, one of the Alliance folks said to us, but your attendance is really good, except with, you have a handful again of, maybe that 5% where we're still trying to figure out how we can really reach them, bring them back, and help them get back to just the routine and the normalcy. And it's been hard.
How about the buses? I hear people all the time. I have anything to say to there because it goes in one or the other sometimes. But maybe problems on the buses. Has that gotten better, or were there really problems on buses? I don't know. I never asked the question before.
I think there were some challenges on the buses when we started. I think they are getting better. But once again, it's tough to be driving a bus
No, I know.
because you're facing this way and you've got how many ever kids behind you. And students haven't been on a bus for a while either. And then they're in a confined area and they all have to get along and sit and behave and all of that. I know, Kim, we did post for bus monitors, and how many applicants do we get?
One that started.
There you go, right.
Not submitted.
So
Is
it's
that a
really,
requirement of bus monitor? I don't. it's
no,
not,
but
right.
we just
We talked
thought
about
for
it.
some particular buses or routes, it might help, but it's really very, very difficult to get bus monitors. So it's not like we haven't tried. And we will continue to try to do that. We'll be talking more about just busing and bus delays and things like that in just a little bit.
Sure. The other thing too is that when we have, there's a turnover of bus drivers on the bus routes, right? Because that's been an area of shortage. So if you don't have that same consistent driver day in and day out, right? You don't really have that relationship. So your behaviors are more inclined to be challenging.
And the new people, don't forget too, they're still trying to figure out the route. So they're trying to build a relationship, but they're also trying to figure out where they're supposed to go. So it is challenging. And then Marcy's done a really nice job of trying to combine routes. And so you have to have a really experienced bus driver who's going to be able to do that and really know where he or she is going as well. So, yeah, it's been a challenging time, certainly, more than we had thought.
And just to add to that, because I think there's a lot of misconceptions. So these incidents that have been happening on the buses are addressed. It's just not, everyone in the buildings can't know what happened about an incident on a bus, but they are addressed when they happen, both with the bus company, the administration of the building, central office is notified. So they are being addressed. But we also, pre-COVID, there was bus issues too. So it's just,
Yeah.
it's just life. It's just,
Yeah.
grown a little bit after COVID, but it's not something new. Any other questions on the superintendent's report before we move on to Office of Teaching and Learning? Okay, Office of Teaching and Learning update.
Hi, everyone. I'm sorry this did not make it into the packet, but I hope you all have a copy. If anybody needs one, just give a yell, and Allie's going to project it on the screen. I know that this is real small print, but we were trying to conserve paper because, of course, there's also a paper shortage. So just very, very briefly, tonight, I just want to speak a little bit about our Election Day professional development because it was such a huge success. And I can say that because of the feedback that we've received. Much of the feedback we received was unsolicited. I did include in your packet just one, quote from an email that I received the afternoon of the PD. We did, however, send out a survey to all of the staff members who participated. We had a 50% participation rate in the survey, which many believe to be a pretty good response. Ellie, if you could just go to the next slide. So I just want to kind of give you a broad brush. So we sent out a survey to all of the folks who attended PD, and we asked questions about, what was the impact to your professional practice, and did you find this activity to be well organized? Was it relevant to your assignment? Was the overall activity something that you felt was going to move you forward, in your classroom every day? So if you take a look at the colors, I don't know if you can read it on your, the over to the right, so the purple and the green are the agree. The green is agree and the purple is strongly agree. So I think that was pretty telling. People really seemed to be pleased with what we did. Allie, if you could just advance one, thank you. So here what we did is we put together, Maureen did this slide, so thank you, Maureen. The blue is a combination. So this was all of the responses to all of the multiple choice questions. The blue is combined agree and strongly agree, and the red is the disagree and strongly disagree. So I think we did a pretty good job making people happy on that day. They really felt like it was a good use of their time. We've had teachers reach out and ask if we could continue in this, using the same format. Much of what happened on that day was really getting down and dirty with curriculum work. We did have some, departments and smaller groups of people do something a little bit different, but all very much connected to their assignment. So pretty excited about that. And then just to show you, Allie, if you could go forward, this is who responded. So the blue would be the gen ed teachers who responded, the red, the special ed teachers, and then yellow would be other certified staff who participated in the day. And then the last two slides, the next one is just the quote that I mentioned just a moment ago that we received from a Torrington High School teacher thanking us for the day and, just giving us input. So I was very, very grateful to get that. I'm certainly not going to read to you. You can all read. And then the last slide is just a very, very, quick summary of what the various grade levels and departments participated in, what they actually focused on that day. So this is great information for our department as we look forward to planning the day in February. So I don't know if you have any questions.
I guess I just have more of like a general, could we, and maybe it's only me who's looking for this, but like a curriculum kind of update, like I know we're kind of funding a lot of money through the different channels towards curriculum. And I don't know that I fully understand kind of like what it is, like when you're developing and refining it, are you completely changing it? I don't know enough, and I'd love
So maybe at an upcoming school improvement meeting,
I'm in the same boat too.
John,
I would love that.
yeah, no, you know what, honestly, curriculum is kind of one of these nebulous things that many people don't really have a handle on, right? So yeah, no, I would love to do that. I'll bring some samples of what curriculum work looks like at the various levels.
That'd be awesome. Yeah, I really would like that, especially as it's like, a big budget item and something we should be investing in. Yep. Great, thank you.
Gary.
I did hear from two teachers, both I respect a lot, and who normally don't, in the past haven't agreed with a lot of things, but they both had said, they're both really good teachers. They were very happy to see the progress being made, and they were very much looking forward to it. This is at the high school level, the changes, so. I mean, it's only two, but.
No, but thank you for sharing that because,
I told Robin.
I do think that that's representative of how many people felt that day because honestly, there are most times we kind of feel like the complaint department and that didn't happen this time. The feedback we got was by and large very positive, so.
And to that feedback, in the old days of CEUs, the assessment was mandatory. Everybody had to fill it out. You said 50%, you thought that was good. And could we give any thought to requiring everybody to fill out a short survey sheet with a lot of room for comments? Because 50% is good, I agree with that, if it's voluntary, but I'd like to see what the other 50%.
Yeah, we could, there have been some times when we've done like an exit ticket, which is I think what you're talking about, where we've actually provided time at the end of the actual day so that they had time, they didn't have to do it on their own.
You don't get out the door without handing this.
Like an evaluation.
Well, the CEUs, you laughed when I said that.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah, we remember that.
Yeah. Yes, we can certainly do that, build it right in at the end of the day.
It would make this so much more valid.
Yeah.
To me.
Yes, no, you're right. That's a really good idea, John. The reason that we did it this way, this time, is because we had a PDEC meeting the day after the PD day, and we wanted to involve the PDEC in. PDEC is the group in the district that helps to inform what we do in terms of professional learning. So it's teachers who sit on this committee. And we wanted to include them and involve them in creating the survey. So that's the reason that we waited. But yes, great idea. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Laura?
Okay, let's try this again. So I told you guys the last time I provided an update on our numbers that I'm still going to provide the numbers, but I really want to start digging a little bit deeper this year. So it's kind of piggybacking right along what Sue was saying. And SPED leadership is meeting with OTL leadership on a regular basis to really talk about how we can move our kids forward. And so, as Sue said, a lot of the PD was really rich on instruction and what are we doing with kids and what do we need to do better with kids and how can we move them forward. And then on top of that, with special ed, what other tools do I need? Either teaching, different ways of teaching or different materials, like what else do we need? So if gen ed's not working, we have these tools too. So that's really my big push this year. So I also included our PD on here, and we have a lot of different groups. So I really try to make it beneficial to all the different groups, including speech and nurses and RPTs and all of our teachers. So spent a lot of time on curriculum and on behavior. Those were probably our two biggest areas. And we will continue to build on this in the February meeting as well. Real quick, just on the first page with the numbers. We still look good. We're where we need to be, which is awesome. Both our prevalence rate and our outplace rate are within the state average. So we've really come a long way with that. One thing that, actually two things I wanted to point out was that we were beginning to see, it's small, but we're beginning to see a little bit of a decline in the number of kids that we have in our the choice schools. So we have some kids that are now coming back to us, which is kind of exciting to see. And then the other thing is, you'll notice on here that we actually outplace the student. So it's not that we never do it. Some children do need to be outplaced, but by far, most children do not. And so that's what we've been working on for 3 years. And just to give you perspective of that, last year, we only put 7 new students in outplacements. The year before, when we were here, 7 students. The year before that, 33. And the year before that, 28. So we really are trying to keep kids in their least restrictive environment, bring them back. But occasionally, you're going to see somebody need to be outplaced. So I'll continue to provide this with you. We hope as we go forward that I can give you more update on how we're moving our kids along and looking at data, and I'm hoping to see some really nice improvement in reading and math scores and whatnot going forward.
Any questions?
I'm not gonna make her answer questions.
I know.
She can go home now.
Poor team, let Lori go home, please.
I just have one question. I'm
Sorry.
sorry.
Sign language.
So, I mean, just, we're seeing all these other issues in the homes, the families are stressed, but it's a little concerning that our GCF placements went from 6 to 9.
Yeah, we don't have any control over that, obviously.
Yeah, no, I just didn't know, like, if we think this is gonna be a trend, just.
I certainly hope not.
COVID.
There's some pretty significant stuff
Yeah,
that has happened recently.
yeah.
And so we do have kids that we find out have been removed and placed into a foster home that were either our kids and were placed elsewhere, or that were living in another community and then are in a foster home here. So, we just have to pick things up and keep providing them education. So I provide it. I don't really know why, because there's not really anything we can do about it. But just so that you guys can see what we're dealing, just when we had that influx all the time with New York, with the students coming in, luckily that seems to have balanced out. Whereas it used to be, I'd have 3 kids coming in with an IEP for every one that left. So that's balanced out, but I think it's probably helpful just so that you're aware of what's going on.
Well, I think it's helpful too, just, in the past, we tried to address with the state how that's funded and who's responsible at what point. So it is helpful for us to know that and see that it's upticking. Those, as you know. All right, any other questions?
Just, can we please dismiss her and let her
Yes.
go home now?
Please go.
You want me?
I don't think there's anything else.
Oh,
You're all good.
You're off the hook.
I just think.
Thank you. You know what? It's a long drive. I mean, you
It
need
is.
a lot of medicine. You're like trying to drive in the dark. You can call me anytime. And yeah, you might. Yeah, no.
I appreciate you being.
Thank you, guys.
I appreciate you being here and being such a
Oh,
trooper.
absolutely.
Thank you.
Feel better.
Well.
All right, final budget, 2021, 2022.
With the 2020-21 budget year, we're returning $346,122.13 to the town that we did not spend.
Any questions? Questions? All right, monthly financials. Lynn? Or Armin?
We're, I'm currently projecting that we're gonna have a surplus, based on not spending everything, because we do have, supplies and things that we need to spend as we go down, and we have to have, unexpected expenses, so we don't let them spend 100% of their allocations until it gets closer to year end. So, I'm thinking that the salaries are trending under budget due to staff turnover, and that supplies will be going over budget due to having to go out to bid for propane. Sorry. And the costs have gone skyrocketing. So we'll be looking at it very carefully, keeping it on track.
I just have one question.
Gary?
I don't want to, by the end of the year, let's say we have money to give back. And we're going for a grant for the walkie-talkies. If we don't get the grant, is that excess money, can we use that excess money for this kind of use of walkie-talkies, or does it have to be used for only certain items?
It's the purview of the board to spend their budget as they wish.
Okay. All right. Because if we don't get the grant monies, that's something.
Absolutely, the board makes the decision on how to spend the money that's given to them by the time.
And just, if I can piggyback on that, we'll be presenting something to budget about the walkie-talkies and about a new proposal for that.
Nikki, but do we have to keep it within general versus capital? Is that a rule? Like, I feel like I get that mixed up.
Yeah, if we move, if the city gives us two separate budgets and operating and a capital separate, then to move money from operating to capital, we would need to go to Board of Finance for approval.
But this year they gave us the one number, so we could move it as if we wanted to.
So there's some discrepancy on that because the Board of Finance gave us a number, but City Council split it out because the capital is a zero. So when the City Council voted on it, they voted a zero capital budget, so.
Would that be operating, would walkie-talkies be operating or capital?
Capital.
But if it's used for the day.
Quite a lot of money at Woodsy Capital,
It would be
because
of
you
the
have
volume.
to put the towers on the buildings.
Armin?
Yeah, and if we cannot refer to it as just walkie-talkies, it's an implementation of a whole new
Right.
communication
Right.
system.
With the
Because
towers.
there are some rumblings out there that item, that $250,000 for walkie-talkies is insane,
Right.
okay?
Right.
So I think we need to talk about it as a communication system. And I would say that would be capital, because it is a whole new system that's gonna last for a long time.
The communication towers alone
Right.
being installed on all the
Right,
roofs.
Right.
And then the handheld units.
Right.
But
Just
if we
gotta
can
make sure
get
we're
it through
clear
a
on
grant,
the communication of the communication system.
yes, and you're right. We really
Change it on the
need
next budget.
to use that instead.
Yeah.
But we can talk about more grant opportunities during the budget subcommittee.
Hey, any other questions on that? Oh, go ahead.
Just one more question to the walkie-talkies. When we were at budget meeting, I thought we had discussed something that was gonna come to us tonight as another possible solution for funding for those.
We're still working on something with the state, so that's why I'm saying we'll bring it up at the budget subcommittee meeting.
Okay,
And
so
then-
that's what
right.
it is, it's just
Yep.
taking longer than we hoped.
Yes.
Any other questions? Any other questions? Okay, RFI busing.
We put an RFI out, a request for information to companies to try and help us with our busing problem. And we received one response from Carriage Limousine. And they had 30 passenger buses at $125 an hour and 10 passenger vans available at $87.50 per hour. We'd like to know if that's something that you would like us to pursue.
So just in the transparency, the only bidder happens to be my brother's company. So I am going to refrain from any discussion on this item. 100%.
So, yeah, if I could just jump in.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's been definitely a challenge. And you see all the notifications first thing in the morning. It is late notification for our families. Marcy's really not able. She's the manager at All Star. She's trying to get us the information as soon as possible. But as you might imagine, the bus drivers have family emergencies, people get sick, something happens. And as we go toward winter, I think that's only going to get worse rather than better. She is hopefully hiring 3 new people, so that will be helpful. But as Sue said, we've also had some folks leave and find other jobs, and et cetera. Just that ebb and flow, which has been difficult and challenging this year. So if we can do this, I really think it would be helpful. They wouldn't be able to do AM runs, but the bulk of what we've seen are a lot of PM runs because something has happened during the day. Or it's just, they have to be XYZ in the afternoon, so at other locations. So it's very hard to even combine routes, as I said before, unless you have a very experienced driver.
Armand and Nikki.
So this would be a per diem as needed? Is what we're looking at, or do we already have needs that we know, and then maybe some additional if necessary?
Right, so what we'd like to do is do it on a contracted basis so that it was at least 4 days a week, because then we'd have Monday through Thursday covered or Tuesday through Friday, and we can kind of figure out when we've seen the most issues. And then we also have a need for after school because we haven't been able to run a lot of our after school programs. Simply because we just don't even have the busing. So All Star is able to help a little bit with that, but not enough to run the programs the way we'd really like to.
You just have the numbers again?
The 30 passenger bus was $125 an hour and the 10 passenger van was $87.50. And most of the students who are still remaining after either congregating at one school or remaining at their own school, it's usually about 20 students per school, 20 to 25, so then we would bus accordingly. We'll have to really break that down, see what our needs are on a regular basis. Some buses obviously have less students, so you can kind of see the majority of our buses, how many students remain, we chart it. The principals have been really great about remaining, making sure their students get home safely, charting how many students are left, how many parents have called and said, I'll pick up my child today, that kind of thing. So we'll look at that before we actually say, okay, it's one or the other. But definitely the 4 days on a consistent basis. Because as I said, we're also moving into winter season. We are seeing an uptick in the COVID cases, unfortunately. I know you've received a lot more notifications lately. Screen and stay is helping, but still, case is a case.
Nikki.
I feel like the notifications that we do get for the buses though do affect both morning and afternoon runs. So this doesn't address there's still gonna be the morning issues.
There still will be a morning delay.
Can they not accommodate us in the morning?
That's my understanding. Lynn? They wouldn't be able to do it on a consistent basis because they have many other things that they're doing. But I could check back.
Did you reach out to more people, like more companies to see, and this was the only one that you got back?
This was the only one
Yeah.
that I got back.
I just, the concern, obviously, for every parent, right, that has to get to work, it's both a morning and an afternoon, and, and the late notice, I'm sure doesn't help, especially if people, don't have the flexibility.
Unfortunately, there's so many school districts in the same situation that most companies don't even have the ability to do this. The ones that I called said, I'm doing it for Oxford, I'm doing it for this district, I'm doing it for that district. Luckily, they were able to accommodate us. We had been lucky for such a long time that really, we were hoping, keeping our fingers crossed, and I know that All Star is really trying to hire as many people as they can and process them as quickly as possible. The processing has been challenging as well. It's at least 6 weeks out. It's better than it was, but the state has really tried to help us with that.
Yeah, I think, if you really just do a double check about the morning runs with them, but even if they say we definitely can't do morning runs consistently, I'm interested in at least trying to solve half the problem. I get that it's still really unfortunate for the folks who are stuck in the mornings, and I'm sure we're gonna keep working on it, but I'd be interested in doing whatever it takes at this point to even solve a part of this problem.
Any other questions?
Did we ever ask the
Gary.
question, where the money for the extra buses will come from? Will it be ARPA money? Will it be anything we have left over? I'm just curious. Yeah, how do we pay for it?
Right,
Not
so,
questioning, I'm just wondering how we.
yeah, so there is some money which will probably be available because we have not been able to run these after-school programs. We were really hoping to run them September on. We wanted to hit the ground running, and we have not been able to do that at any of our schools. So now we're already into November, so you can just imagine that you'd have a significant savings there. Yeah, so that's in ARPA, that is in Alliance, and that's also in our ESSER. So there's a portion in each one of those.
Nikki?
Sorry, one last, just clarifying, so this is addressing both those kind of like emergency, 5 a.m. calls, but then also allowing us to get back into those after-school programs.
Right.
Okay, thank you. I missed that.
Armin, did you?
Oh, no, I'm all set, thank you.
Yes.
I had a question, and maybe I just missed this, but is this a contract that we would sign with them? Like, could we go with this tentatively, and then if a different company is able to provide the full array of services, we could shift directions?
I think we were originally thinking that it would be a contract. I don't know if they offered other options. I'm kind of afraid not to do some type of contract so that we can lock them in. We had originally anticipated having it through May with the after-school programs, at least.
Armin?
I'm concerned not going with a contract because contracts protect both parties, and since we're one of the parties, I'd like to see some protections against, certain things that would be in a transportation contract. That we, so that something happens, et cetera, et cetera.
Jess, Nikki, Gary, in that order.
So could we, I'm just thinking, like, I'm all for us solving half the problem, I think we said rather than not doing anything, but I just wonder if a couple months from now, if another company comes out, oh, hey, we have openings, we can help you guys out in the morning now. Would we be able to take advantage of that? Like, could we write this contract where it's specific to the afternoon, because that's what they can offer us, and then, you know what I mean?
It can be written any way it needs to be, absolutely, to protect us.
Is there anything in our All-Star contract that prohibits us from, using another company?
No, but that's a good question. That was something that we were concerned about, but because they can't provide the services at this time,
and that's written into that contract, then we're protected
Mhm.
in terms of moving forward.
First right of refusal for any
Yeah.
additional busing.
And then just to follow up on Jeff's point, if it's inconsistent and they do have the ability to service some mornings, I mean, I think something's better than nothing. So finding kind of that process out before going specifically with afternoon, because in case they could do, you know, even a few of them, which would be very helpful.
Gary?
Did we ever talk to All-Star about paying, if we don't have the after school, we're expecting extra money, about paying a premium or overtime for their drivers to get them to work more shifts? I don't think there's a maximum number of hours they have to work. They can't work with the pilot, but in order to satisfy some of the problems, it would behoove us to try.
And I don't think there's enough drivers out there.
Right.
I think that's the issue.
Well, no, but they're not gonna pay overtime to the drivers, is my point. You know, some drivers may be able to do 2 shifts, they may wanna work 15 hours. I don't know,
The
but
problem with that is it doesn't solve our problem though, because they're all getting out at the same time. So we physically need more bodies is the problem. So like even if that's what we're doing now, they're coming back to get kids, but the kids are having to wait at the school.
They're not available to come back around to get them until
Right.
after 4:15, so it just puts that much later.
as long as they're just not cutting them off 40 hours. If they're afraid to, and I don't know how many days these people work, but if they're overtime, we might be able to offer paid overtime.
Yeah, I don't think that they're afraid to do that. I think it's just the delay. And they may at some point be able to help us with that after-school programming as well, which would be wonderful. We just have to have
I
some
didn't
more of
realize
these
we weren't doing
hires.
after school, that's terrible.
Well, we are doing a little bit,
No, I'm just saying.
but it's as much as we're able
Right.
because
Yeah.
we're really restricted by this.
They think that in January, they're going to have 3 additional drivers coming on.
Yeah.
So that will help.
Sorry, last
Nikki.
question. Do we know what the estimate, like total expense from now till May is? I know we got the hourly rate, but just kind of with what we would need it serviced for.
It would honestly depend on how many days we were running the programs and how many buses we needed. And that's in the air until we know how many students are gonna enroll in.
Don't we need that before we can approve it? To know, right, like the total budget?
It's not coming out of general budgets.
Grant funded.
It's coming out of the grant money.
I thought we had grant funds pretty allocated.
They are,
We do with the after-school, go ahead.
but the after-school programs have been run only limited, so there's money left over. Because they were supposed to start in September, so we've got a couple months, actually, almost 3 months of unused funds.
So we kind of already did that estimate when we put it into the grant funding.
Any other questions? So just as a point of clarification for Lynn, so if she can find either this company or another company that will do it for the same price
Or lower.
or lower, does the board want Lynn to just proceed without coming back to the board? The only time it would come back is if it exceeds that amount, or
Just
would you want her to
information.
bring another proposal back if they can find someone for AM?
I'm good with.
Yeah, no, I'm good if it fits within what we just discussed.
It's an action item.
Yeah. Nurse subs.
Sure. Yes, so at the budget subcommittee, I brought information to share with the committee about nursing sub comparisons because we have been struggling to fill our nurse substitute positions. I know Laura spoke about the fact that she has to juggle a lot of staff when nurses are out because we don't have enough of the sub pool. So what you have in the packet is a comparison of other districts that I was able to obtain. And in the budget subcommittee, the budget committee, basically, we're recommending $30 an hour, that we increase from $25 an hour to $30 an hour. So that's what we would like the board to consider to make us a little bit more competitive so that we can try to make our sub pool a little bit greater. And we're still below what our permanent nurses make at that point.
questions? Okay, ECS 2%.
Okay, we've talked a little bit about this. We talked about it during the budget subcommittee meeting. Originally, when we sent this out, we really thought that it was going to look more like ARPA. When I wrote to Marlene Paternak during the summertime in June, she said it was a very simple application, which it was, but really didn't give me a lot of the parameters. So ARPA, though, is very different than Title I. Title I is much more focused on academics and social emotional, and it has a lot more parameters on it than what we've been able to do with ARPA. ARPA, you've seen that we've been able to put windows in, as well as social workers, as well as computers, and so that was much more far-reaching. So our communication system was something that we thought we'd be able to put in originally, and then was rejected by the state. So what you see in the packet was what we sent to the budget subcommittee meeting, and so just the clarification of those positions, the 2 registered behavior techs, the interventionists, the coaches. So you're getting SEL, you're getting that social emotional support as well as that academic support, the social worker, and then the instruments at the elementary. And that's already been preliminarily approved by the state. So we wanted to bring this back to the board for approval so that we could move it forward and get the funds.
Nikki?
Is that market rate for the RBTs?
I'm sorry?
Is that like the market, salary for those? 34 just seems, I don't know, low.
They're in the union contract, so that's our contract rate.
Questions, other questions? Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah, they do. Always.
Alliance update.
The only thing that's been added to the Alliance are the benefits. We did have benefits in there last year, so we had approximately 141, then we moved it to 166, and now we've moved it to the 200,000 just because we have increased and had more employees. So that's just the only adjustment. I do bring this forward every month. I don't necessarily bring it to the full board for a vote simply because sometimes there's changes, sometimes there's not. If there's changes, then I bring it forward for a vote.
Any questions? Nikki?
Did we have to remove anything?
Once again, we sliced away a little bit of that after school. We're just kind of trimming. But we didn't have to take away any positions. We took away a little bit of our PD funding, not a lot. So it was kind of shared sacrifice there.
Any other questions? Torrington Parent Driveway, update on bids.
Ben, might talk a little bit about that, or Lynn, and then Jill wants to.
I'll do it. So we had 2 bidders for the project. We reviewed the bids. There was one bid that was slightly lower than another bid, but through some disqualification on the lower bidder, we actually went with the higher bidder, who was a company who was more in tune with the equipment that was needed to do the project. So one company was sort of a landscape company versus a construction company. We were able to go with the construction company. The bid price came in at $45,900. The piece of equipment have been moved into the facility today. Construction or excavation will start tomorrow or Friday, I believe. Probably tomorrow we'll start excavation. And I expect it to be completed in about 2 weeks.
And just the difference between the 2 bids was like 2,900.
2,900.
Very small amount.
Yeah, small amount.
Gary and then Armin.
I should have asked this the other night, but the depth of the pavement, what do we ask for? What do we spec out? 3 inch, 4 inch?
It's 3 inches, 2 separate coatings, 1.5 inches each.
You have a good gravel base?
12 inches of gravel base compacted in 6-inch
Yeah,
layers.
that's pretty good.
What were the disqualifying features?
One contractor didn't provide it was clearly specified in the bid document that they had to provide 3 references. There was no references provided in that. Although both of the contractors work with us, we also because we know both of the contractors, we know the equipment that they run and their ability to get the job done. And so we were really concerned with making sure that the job got done in a timely fashion with no overruns to the project or anything. Hence the reason why we ended up going with the higher bid.
And can we ask who won the bid?
I can, it's RAR, they're also our snowplow contractor.
Yep.
Any questions?
It's great news.
Okay.
I won't,
Oh, go ahead.
it's related to that, but Officer Brandis was building today. And they were double stacking the cars there. There's no concern about it. Some people are concerned about safety. The cars are going parallel in the driveway. They were that way today. But we don't have a concern about safety with that, do we? There were some people complaining about safety. But I'm just bringing it up.
As long as there's adult supervision, it should be okay until we can get that taken care of.
Yeah, just what's on the radar. I'm joking. There were people.
That was something that the safety officer for the
Correct.
police department had suggested.
He had said people had brought up the issue of safety too, so just pass it along. I don't see it.
Can't come soon. As Kathy said at the meeting, it was bad even when she was the principal.
We tried that, yeah, I mean, it was, I mean, we had traffic up there all the time, and the police officers trying to rearrange and come up with other plans for how we could make it work. And we actually did at one point try the double line, but we didn't have enough supervision out there, right?
That's the key, right? Supervision.
Yeah, the
because
supervision's the key.
You have children that are crossing
Yeah.
another
right
vehicle
there.
line to get to the outside
Yeah.
line. And, they're small children.
They
And
are.
so your line of sight in that car may not be able to see them. And that is something we do not want. Absolutely not.
Yeah, it's very difficult that way.
Well, thank you, everyone, for
Yeah.
getting that done before
Thank
they close the asphalt plants. All right, policy 3022, code of conduct governing procurement under a federal award. Sue or Ellen, who wants to take this one?
You want us to talk about it?
Sure.
So it's, Kim, jump in. It's, so this particular policy 3022, just a reminder of what we're doing. We're going series by series. So we looked at the 3000 series. And the way that we're doing it right now, our first run through is policies that Shipman has that we currently do not. So we currently do not have this policy. It's basically a policy that deals with conflict of interest, right? When, right?
For awarding of contracts, really specifically, it was about the school nutrition program.
Right.
But it really does reference all of that, and it really just is about making sure that conflicts of interest are disclosed. And we went through this at the subcommittee. There was some optional pieces that we didn't feel were applicable for us, and so it is a policy that we're required to have, that we're supposed to have.
Any questions?
Great discussion.
Policy 3023, individuals with disabilities education act, IDEA, fiscal compliance.
This is another policy that we're required to have.
we had a good conversation about this. In fact, in both of these, when it comes to both of these policies, we've already been doing everything that we're supposed to be doing. We just didn't have it framed in policy. This deals with children with IEPs.
And making sure that the funds that are identified that are used for items those items specifically needed to be labeled. And I know Ally showed us a demo of how, she's labeling the iPads and things like that. And so we really have to make sure that when funds from IDEA are used to purchase items or things like that, that those items are outlined, that they're being used for those resources for those students, to make sure that they're not used for other things outside of special education. So
That's actually something that we used to do a long time ago with all of our grant purchase items.
Any questions? Okay, calendar 2021-22 PD Day, March 25th, 2022.
Okay, so you heard Sue and I both talk about the success of the PD Day. I think that there really is an appetite for teachers to want to continue this curriculum work and to move us forward. We'd like to propose an extra PD Day, March 25th. Right now, we do have 181 student days, so we move to 180. We could still do that and meet the state statute requirement. You want to speak a little bit more about that?
Sure. I mean, this, we've had conversations. I mentioned PDEC earlier. PDEC is an acronym that stands for Professional Development and Evaluation Committee. And this is a committee that every school district in the state has. So we've had conversations with that group of folks. There's representatives from the teachers group and also administrators. And they're in agreement that the collaborative time with their colleagues is really something that everybody's yearning for right now. There's so much work to be done. And we really have a good momentum going. So we're asking the board to consider allowing us to have that additional day. We have a day coming up in February, but if we had the additional day at the end of March, I think it would really move us in the direction we're attempting to go. We had to hit pause when COVID happened. We've gotten back into the rhythm, but there's just an excitement right now that we'd love to be able to do a little bit more this school year.
Questions?
I have one. I look at March and I see that, they have 2 weeks of uninterrupted, schedule, and then they have a half day on the 17th, that third week, and then the following week, they're gonna have a day off, and then the following week, they have 3 half days.
For conferences.
Would it make more sense, to schedule it on the 18th, so if families wanted a 3-day weekend and the kids were released early on that Thursday, the 17th, and then they'd have Friday off, and then that would give them a full week of instruction, the week of the 21st to the 25th. I just throw it out there, I don't know.
So one of the things that we're looking at is for the primary schools is bringing in someone to help us facilitate if we're allowed to do this. And that person is not available when you're suggesting. So we were kind of looking at the calendar and trying to do, and I think the 25th is a Friday.
It is a Friday, right, but it's just another week that it's gonna, a 4-day week instead of a 5-day.
Yep.
Right, it's just like every week is.
Yeah.
Right.
But
So that's another
I don't know if you
Yeah.
have those implications to your school stuff.
Can you move the 17th to the 24th? The half day on the 17th
Oh, yeah, we could,
and have the 24th be a half day.
right.
I'm just thinking about how many disruptions there are with them.
It's such a progress month for
Right.
kids.
I mean, I know March is a long month,
Right,
but,
which is why we looked at March,
Right,
honestly,
right.
just
just a thought.
so move the PLC day is what she's.
Right, and we could, with early enough notification to our families, remind them.
Right.
Would you need that half day if you're putting it
Getting
in
a
a full day?
Good point.
Yeah, that is a very good point.
Yeah.
It's so tough for
Yeah.
parents to have.
Just
all
switch.
day
Right, right.
Work.
Half days are hard.
Yeah.
Harder
Yeah.
than days off.
Yeah, no, that's a very good point.
So we could get the notification out, I think you're right, because then I think it would be such a gift to have that full day on the 25th to really dig in and work and not get interrupted. And then just that's the compromise, we give up the 17th.
By doing that, are we taking away a day, or are we adding a date to the end of the year, or that this was all planned?
We have an extra day built in.
Okay.
But I do have a question about that. So how close does that put us to graduation if we have to add days?
So we don't have to add any instructional days because we have 181 student days in the calendar, so it just goes down to 180 and we're still fine. So we wouldn't be adding any extra days.
Right, but we don't have that other day as that buffer.
Talking about if we have snow.
Yeah.
So what the last school day, if you look at June, right, is the 15th without any cancellations. And we always have some type of cancellation. And then we have the 5 days built in, so you can see both. So then it would be up to the 22nd if you have 5 cancellations. And then those days just keep getting added. Seniors no longer have to make up those days. So I think we are holding fast at the 17th for graduation day, so it would not bump us out. Because now they have said, they passed through the legislation that you say, okay, you've got your graduation day, you don't have to change it, and you just move forward with that. And obviously, assuming that we don't have a lot of blizzards and hopefully don't go a lot over that 5. Just remembering that every single one of these days this year needs to be a snow day. It cannot be a remote day. The state does not acknowledge remote days as legal official days, cannot count for that. So these will be all snow days.
Is there still a minimum requirement for the number of hours? Because I
Yes.
know in years past, we were so close on
Yep.
the hours of instruction. Is there still that stipulation, and will we be too close or over, or no?
We're in pretty good shape with respect to that. I know exactly what you're
Yeah.
referencing. Yeah, no, we have plenty of wiggle room.
Okay.
The 900 hours.
Is it still not, okay, I didn't know if it was still 900, but yeah. Okay.
Okay, any other questions? Okay. Field trips, April 15th, 2022, June 2022, and April vacation 2023.
Right, so the first 2 are the very same trip, and they were, the first one, the April 15th to April 23rd, Amsterdam to Paris, was something that was on the books pre-COVID, and then obviously had to be, it didn't run, obviously. So the request is to consider, fingers crossed, that it could run this coming 2022. And the reason for the request for the very same trip in June is because there's already been a lot of interest at the high school. And they're thinking that they may need to run a second trip to accommodate all of those who would like to take advantage of it.
Questions?
No, I just have a comment, because my daughter is scheduled to go on the trip. Originally, she's supposed to go on the June trip. But because she's a senior, they allow the seniors to go on the April trip. And so I think there's still a lot of underclassmen, because a lot of underclassmen signed up 2 years ago, I think it was, when we did signups to, for this trip. So I think they're gonna need both weeks. So, yeah, so that's kind of what's going on in a nutshell.
Right, that's my understanding also. They're trying to make sure they can accommodate all
Yeah,
the
they want to
kids.
accommodate everybody, and they switched the seniors to the April one
Yep.
because of possible college,
Mhm.
things they have to do, like orientations and things in June. So,
Nikki?
I don't think we got the June one in the packet. I think we got 2 Aprils.
Oh. it was
Yeah, but
just
so what's the dates? Because I assume everything else is.
Oh, sorry about that.
Oh, it's okay.
It's the same trip. Here it is.
Oh, it doesn't.
But it just has different dates.
So it when school's in session or no?
No, it's after.
No, it's
before
after
ends.
school gets out.
Like the-
Yeah, so this one should be June 2022. And then the April is correct, 2023.
Dates of trip, COVID postponement, June 2022. I don't have the actual dates here, it just says June 2022. Robin, can you just come up for a second? Do you happen to know what the dates are for the June Paris-Amsterdam trip? What week that is? Is it the week after graduation?
it's right the week after, I'm pretty sure, I can double check.
The week after graduation.
I can double check. No, I think you're right. I think it is the week after. She said right after.
Right, it's the week of June 21st. Right,
Yeah, this one.
yeah, I apologize, I don't know how that happened.
The full week.
We did,
Yeah.
until July.
Yeah, because the original date.
Well, you know what, I'm wondering, honestly,
For last year.
oh, no, it's exactly.
I think it's, I think if I recall, the original dates were that last week of June into July. So I think it would be the 27th this year. I think it was like the 25th into
Is
like
that
July
like-
3rd.
So what's on the original request right here? It's a, postponement, June 2022, postponed from 2021. She just has June 2022. She didn't specify the dates because I think she was probably waiting to make sure
Yeah.
that it wasn't going to impact, right?
But I do believe it was gonna be that last week of June into the beginning of July is when the original trip was, because I know, because my daughter was scheduled for that trip, and I think it was the 25th to like the 3rd, she was coming back. So I think it would be this year, or this coming June, it would be that week of like the 26th, 27th, starting into the beginning of July, which I should be saying.
Any other questions? I just have, I'm not gonna not put it to vote because of this, but do we have any idea what the chaperone student ratio is just going to Amsterdam?
I think it's 1%.
Yes, she says one for every 6
Yeah.
students. Yep.
1 to 6?
One and
Yeah.
one for
Yeah.
6 students.
It's on the back. Yep,
Yeah.
it's on the application. Yep.
Okay. Any other questions?
So, sorry, go ahead. So are we just gonna approve like the June trip, and then if the dates are different than June 26th, you'll just come back? Or we'll have, you'll just let us know, but we'll approve the June trip?
I think we're getting them.
Oh,
She's
okay.
talking to the teacher who's coordinating the trip.
Okay.
She didn't set the dates because
Right.
she was waiting to make sure that graduation was on the 17th.
Right.
So she had to make sure.
That's kind of what I thought. The date, it's open-ended. It just says June 2022. Just wanted to get it to you folks, in ample time. But yeah, so once all of that's done, then we can bring back the exact itinerary, okay? Thank you, Robin.
You're welcome.
How robust is the security on trips like this?
I'm sorry,
How robust is the security on trips like this?
One chaperone for
Well, they have one adult chaperone for every 6 students.
6 students.
Right, but I mean, yeah, like Fiona said, we're talking about going to Amsterdam, and I think we all know that the world is a little bit more tumultuous right now than it was maybe the last time the kids took a trip like this. And I just wonder if this company is taking that into effect and looking at security protocol, all of that.
But the parents, we should maybe find out, but then the parents will have to weigh that too.
Right.
Yeah, see what they are offering.
And the company,
Ask the question.
Right, the companies that we work with, it's very similar to like the Washington DC trip or any time where it's international or it's other state, that they are working with kids all the time, students. And so obviously what Gary said is absolutely true. Parents have to trust or decide, weigh things out. But yes, these are companies that have been vetted, that fly, take students on trips, plan those trips all the time.
But we still should, I think we should ask them what they're doing just to satisfy some parents that may be on the margin, you know?
Sure, are you saying COVID or do you just
No, I'm not,
saying-
I'm actually not really thinking about COVID, I'm thinking
Right.
more about terrorist attacks, sex trafficking, things like that. And I think that parents, when they hear that the board has approved something, probably think that we're doing that due diligence too. So I would hate to say, oh, well, parents have to make that decision, they should be looking into this, whereas they might be saying the same thing about us, knowing that it's been vetted through all these different channels. You know what I mean? So that's just my concern with something like this.
We could check, we can just make sure, you know, what are their policies, what are their securities, what do they do in terms of these protocols to ensure the safety of our students? Sure.
Yeah, and certainly we can check back with Erin, who has done these trips repeatedly, who's, you know, got the experience and knows.
Have we went to Amsterdam before?
I don't remember seeing an Amsterdam recently.
Me neither. Amsterdam is a little concern to me, only because I've been a little concerning. So I think we need to really make sure that we have appropriate security protocols for.
They're going to see the Anne Frank house. That's the.
Right.
That's right. So I mean, it's a historical diary reading English trip. So it's,
Right.
you know, that's
They've been to Paris before, they've
Yeah.
been to London before.
I think it's just what's legal
Yeah.
in Amsterdam is not legal in Paris is my concern.
Yeah.
Well, not just, I mean, not just schools do this, and just get the security protocols.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, and parents decide.
Right, if you're gonna send your kid to Amsterdam, you know what the city is, you know what the program is, you know what the educational value is, you know how much money it's gonna cost you.
Yeah.
It's not like there are cops in the Netherlands. I'm pretty satisfied with the general public safety in the Netherlands. And I suspect that Sue's point about the company being very experienced, sending students to large international megacities, I suspect it would be fine.
But we can get this for you.
To that point, I mean, the companies also want you to do the trip again, so they're going to make sure that certain things are followed, so.
At least educate the parents on the protocols they provide, just feel safe.
Yes, we can certainly bring that information back.
That's all.
But I can put this out to you, Armand. I mean, I'm sure that there are parent information
There is,
sessions
yeah,
that are
yeah.
run by the people coordinating it, right? So that you have an understanding of what's happening.
Yeah. It's, I can't think of the name of the tour company, but it's been around for a long time and does educational trips and for years, you know, and they specialize, I think, in European or abroad trips, and it's just, yeah. So it's not like it's a startup, you know, doing this, so. I'm not concerned.
Any other questions? All right.
There's one more.
I thought we gave them the bundle.
The third one is for 2023. It's the same as it's another Amsterdam to Paris. She just wanted to get it out there for the following year.
Questions? Anybody else set on the field trips? Okay. In time cleanup. All right, brief Board of Finance update. Yes, so there was several agenda items on the Board of Finance meeting last night relative to Board of Education issues. The first one was our conversion to Infinite Visions through Tyler Technologies, what will replace New World for us. They had some questions of Lynn. Lynn gave a brief presentation on very short notice, so thank you, Lynn, for that. And Sue also discussed it. So, you know, they're going to do some additional research. They did speak with the company yesterday. They're having the company come out to give them some more information, I think at their next meeting possibly. But, you know, so we let them know that we're continuing with our migration to the system because it's going to take us time to be able to go live next year. So they're still working on all of that. We've already gotten the assurances that we can provide what's needed for the audit, that they can, you know, drill down and get information. They'll still have access to the accounts. So we have already voted that we are going with the system. So that's really, you know, they're doing their due diligence. We've already made the decision. The other item was they were upset about the 2% ECS, and just for the record, a letter was sent to Board of Finance in June, letting them know that we were doing this. So I am not sure why we were called down there in November to discuss this. This should not have been a surprise. We sent the letter in June with all the statutory requirements. They discussed possibly putting a policy or ordinance in effect so that the board would have to notify them by April on whether or not we were going to use our 2% ECS. However, I don't believe the city can put an ordinance in that supersedes the state statute. So I think what would be more productive is if we work together to arrive at a number that's accommodable and reasonable to everybody. But the Board of Education has to act what's the best interest of the kids and the staff in our schools. And the Board of Education will have that option every year to take that 2%. And it'll be something that we discuss during our budget deliberations. And then we have to make a final decision in June to notify the state if we're going to do that. Number 2. Number 3, they wanted the breakdown of the ECS items. We also, the building committee so built into the budget for the new school was $1,589,841 in building permit fees to the city. So we had requested a waiver of those permit fees because, you know, typically we don't have to pay the permit fees. We have a third-party inspector that's doing the inspections. We couldn't find any building projects that building permit fees had ever been paid. So we had requested a waiver. And what we came to an agreement because part of the issue with the site is the skate park, which is on Bessie Trust land. So the skate park has to be relocated. So when the building committee chairs and the building committee discussed it, we talked about waiving the fees, but leaving $365,000 to physically move the skate park. So they did vote last night to agree to waive what will end up being $1,224,841 in building permit fees. And then we will hold in abeyance the $365,000. There was some confusion that we were going to find a location for the skate park, but the skate park has nothing to do with the Board of Education. It's not our skate park, so we're going to pay for the move, but not be finding the location for where it's going. So I think there'll be more to come on what's going to actually happen with the skate park and where it's going to go. But we do have that $365,000 allotted for that move. And that includes about $75,000, $85,000 of contingency for the unknowns when they actually make the move. Stuff here. Did you have something? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, John.
No, I just want to
Wrong
point
John.
out, we had a greater percentage of our membership there at their meeting than they did of their board. Just to point it out. In other words, they didn't have all the attendance they really needed to discuss such serious issues. It's too bad. It would have been better discussion if their two missing members had been there.
We're
So
done.
hopefully moving forward, this isn't the way we're going to do business. Quite frankly, you know, I received a lot of calls today. People felt very strongly that the way it was handled last night was like an attack. And we're hoping that we don't go down that road. You know, we're happy to discuss all these issues. I do think, because we've had this stagnant push going since June about how much money the Board of Education got. And I will ask anyone, you know, you can go and review the tape of the meeting last night, and the 95,305 that I've been talking about since June is the correct increase, because our capital got cut and the operating increase. So the net impact of what we got was the 95,305. And in addition, we did get ARPA funds. But again, as I stated last night, and I've stated at every budget cycle we have had, and anyone that's been on the board with me knows, I do not like to pay essential staff out of grants because they go away and there's a shortfall and we have no way to bridge that gap. And that's, I think, how we got ourselves in trouble over the last 20 years. We're climbing out of it. And grants should be something you're trying out, not your essential staff in the building. So in 2 years, you know, I voiced it during budget. I will continue to voice it. I'm very grateful that we got the ELL positions, but we're going to need those positions in 2 years. And I don't know where we're going to fund that from. So Gary, Ed, and Jess.
One thing that did come up was, but not possible, I don't know if it happened or not, but Mr. Anderson had said he wasn't receiving the monthly. So can we just make sure that, again, that everybody on that finance committee gets the monthlies every month, therefore, even though they're posted?
Yeah, so I'm going to ask Marissa to add to our distribution list all the Board of Finance and all the City Council, just so that we know everyone's getting everything and we don't have to. I mean, we send it to Carol Anderson and the mayor, so she could just add the other boards. Ed?
Yeah, I just want to say really quickly too, because I don't think you mentioned it multiple times. I listened to the whole thing. Fiona did tell the Board of Finance yet again that we would be happy to have a joint meeting with them. So I just want to make sure that that's clear for the record, and also that I would go to any joint meeting with the Board of Finance at any time. They could call me at 2 a.m. and I'll be there for a 3 a.m. meeting. I mean, seriously, it needs to happen.
He's right.
It's fine, but it needs to happen. And the point was brought up multiple times by the chair of this board and avoided every time by the other folks in that meeting. And so hopefully, after things cool off for a couple days, we can go and work together with them at as many joint meetings as it takes. But I just wanted to make sure that it was clear that you did invite them multiple times at that meeting. Thank you.
Yes.
I just wanted to say I wasn't able to attend in person, but I did view the whole meeting on Zoom, and I wanted to thank you, Fiona, for the way that you articulated the board's point of view. I thought you did an excellent job. I just wanted to thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? So we'll talk more about this stuff in the coming months. You know, we would really like to, you know, John had brought up with the mayor when we were meeting, you know, getting back to our strategic plan, and she's on board with that. So hopefully we can start doing some of that work. And then, you know, I've been wanting for several years, and I think we really need to push to get this subcommittee together to start looking at insurance. So I think the board possibly might want to consider, you know, inviting members of the other committees to join a subcommittee. But if not, I think the board has to start their own subcommittee to start looking at our insurance. and what we're gonna do moving forward with our insurance. So hopefully we can get that work done and start that in January. And we'll talk about it more in December, but if everybody's on board, then we'll get some invitations out to see if there's any volunteers that want to participate in this subcommittee. Nikki?
You mentioned too last night about kind of needs-based budgeting, right? And just, the constraints that we're always up against. And I'd like to put kind of a plug in for when we are budgeting and starting those conversations early in the budget committee. Can we start having those bigger discussions, right? Like the bigger, how much it does cost for us to be fully staffed in ELL or whatever those hot topics are. So we know when we're reducing, the budget, what we're saying no to. And I think that sometimes, puts us in a little bit of a tough spot because we don't always know exactly what it is that we're saying no to. You brought up supplies. Well, what does that look like? And can we have those conversations earlier on? And not in the detail, like not in that specific detail, just more of like these big chunks, like here's what we need to really get our kids, what they need and have some of those conversations.
I agree with Nikki. But since I've been on the board, the response by the board, and some of the board has been, and even sometimes the administration, is that we know we're not gonna get it, so let's give them, our lowest number. And I think that's not the way to do it, I don't think, going forward. Because it doesn't work that way either, so we should evaluate what we really need and justify the need. And then we know what the cost is of what we're cutting and who it's hurting, rather than saying, okay, this is our best and final offer. Because it never works.
This is really fast. We always say that every year that I've been on the board. We say, bring us what you really need. Bring us what you really want. And then we immediately quibble about it. So I agree with Gary, but I'm just saying this, and I've said it before, but I'll say it again. Bring what you need, and I, at least, speaking for Mulan, I will vote for whatever the increase is, if you need it. And I hope that everyone else will commit themselves to that, because I understand that we might get cut after it's reviewed by the city side folks, but I never want to send them a 1% budget again. I don't. I'm not interested, because when they receive, as we learned last night, a 1.26% budget increase, they assume that that's our sort of optimal budget, that that's what we want, which is bonkers and not true. So then I don't think that we should pre-cut our budget during the process. I would prefer to advance whatever budget we as a body feel that we need. We can cut it later. But I think the initial submission to the city, not just the one that comes to the budget committee, the Board of Education submission for a budget request to the city ought to be what it needs to be. Let them set a number and we can make decisions then. And we talk about this every time, but I want everyone to think about it. Because it's important that we commit in advance to going through the process with that outlook. And we can make decisions at the end, because that's how you're supposed to do it. That's all.
And try to force a joint meeting so that we can explain it earlier.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's good to have these conversations, and, part of what I was trying to get across about the budgeting last night is it would be great if we were making budget decisions based on what we actually needed versus making a budget decision to tie back into not increasing the mill rate. So we are going to need more staff. Our class sizes are too high with the needs of the kids in the rooms. We cannot continue to expect the buildings to just make do. The increased graduation requirements, we tried to make do without increasing staff, not knowing we were going to get this influx of students. So I'd like us to look at this budget cycle as, since I was little, my mother always said, is it a want or is it a need? And I think we really have to start looking at what are our real needs in the buildings, and be very conscious of what those needs are that are paying out of those grants, and trying to slowly move some of those mandatory positions back into general budget, or we're gonna have a huge rabbit hole in 2 years.
Well, yeah, and exactly to that point of, what does it look like for next year and the year after, and what is that kind of 3 to 5 year even budgeting plan for some of those to bring them in? Having that kind of visibility, I think would be great for us, and then that, should be great for the city too, to kind of have that visibility.
And I think it's important too. I mean, we have contractual obligations in our staff, and our budget increases don't even cover the contractual obligations, which means that something's getting cut to cover all those contractual obligations. So I think we just need to really, we started it last year. I mean, everyone on this board, your job is to represent the schools, and we need to really push what the schools need and get more input from people in the buildings and central office, and try to help support what those real needs are.
There's questions for Lynn, but would we be able to take a look at our grant monies that we're receiving and then look at the aging of them? And maybe convince the city that we need to budget, just like capital, the burn off of the grants to try to predict what they're gonna be faced with, because I don't know, what are we getting for grants now? $5 million, whatever it is.
I mean, the Title Is and the more entitlement grants aren't as a concern as these ESSERs and,
Right. So the city can't make, how are they gonna make it up if it just hits 1 year or over 2 years? But if we can predict, maybe, and I don't know that we can, I'm not, but is it possible, Lynn, do you think?
We can guesstimate.
Just to present it often enough so so we know that, because we don't want to hit 4 years down the road, have the city say we can't come up with $4 million.
So Gary, just in response to that, we really, this year more than ever, right, need to almost do like a 2-year, because we don't want to fall off the cliff.
Right.
So we're meeting with administration tomorrow about starting the budgetary process and really talking about want versus need, and looking at the staffing that we have, what's working. And I know it's really hard because we're only November of our first year of those grants, but we really want to keep analyzing what's working, what's not. In my goal meetings with principals, we talked a lot about that. So we'll be tracking that, and I can give updates to the board on what we're doing. And Nikki's question earlier was really pertaining to that in terms of like the behavioral. We have all those extra supports. Joanne's going to be presenting on EL and just giving you those updates. So I think that will help, and you'll have that information as we move forward.
I
And
meant
it will
more for the city,
coincide.
so I meant more of the forward thinking for the
Right.
city so that they don't get stuck.
I think part of it, like, to me, is making it more simplistic. Like, I would like to see ESSER grant expires. Here's all the positions paid out of that.
Right.
ARPA, this is when it expires. Here's all our positions.
Yes, and that's easy to
And then,
do.
entitlement
Where it's going.
grants,
Yeah.
here's the positions. Because I think seeing how many positions are in those grants should terrify every single board member.
Right, we don't see it in that view,
Right.
so it's hard to,
It's hard to envision.
yeah. I just,
Go ahead.
sorry, one last comment, and I didn't know, again, in the budget subcommittee, can we break it apart into like chunks? And I don't know exactly like what those chunks would be, but almost like kind of a little bit of a deeper dive into whatever it is, if it's by school or it's by, sped and, maintenance, yeah, whatever, I don't know. You would have to determine that, but like a little bit of a deeper dive to kind of really understand the meat of the strategy behind it, I think would be good for the budget committee.
Yeah, so we'll bring you like that overview to start, and then if you want more detail, very similar to what you see in the grid for that alliance, you see the school, you see the position, you see the funding for that. So you see the breakdown, you've seen those grids over and over again. But I think when you have them out and you say, okay, this many positions in alliance or this many positions in ESSER, you're used to seeing it for all those different pieces. But then if we add the entitlements, like Fiona was saying, so you can see that broader scope. So some have been in existence for a long time, some are relatively new, and then where do you go from there?
And the shifts you're making, because I know when you do your great overview and then we kind of open it up to the board for questions on that like minutia detail, and I almost wonder if there's like that step before the minutia detail where it's kind of like you guys driving a little bit deeper of like what that strategy is.
So I think if you see the overview, and
Yeah.
then as we go, because I think it's gonna be a process, because it is so large, then
Yeah.
you can keep asking questions, and then we can
Yeah.
keep either giving you the detail at that particular meeting, or bringing whatever we don't have back for a follow-up. Sure.
And then just the only other last item on this, I just want to go over, and I can send the spreadsheet if anybody wants it, but, you know, so because of the work we've been doing, like in our special education department, and, you know, we've had cost savings, right? So, you know, bringing kids back from outplacement, there's a lot of factors. So what I've been doing just to get my mind around all of this is looking at basically the audit reports from the city for each year, and what the auditors reported, you know, on their reports for one, what the Board of Education was allotted, budgeted, what we received, and what we returned. So I didn't include 6/30, 2021, because that audit is not complete yet, it's still going through. But we were able to return from 2015 to 2019, so the 2015-16 year to the 2019-20 year, 3,227,034. And I think a lot of those were relative to savings that we inquired in special ed. So, and we've talked about this before, about reinvesting into this so that we have more
Can we all get that
long-term
spreadsheet?
sustainability.
Can we get that, everybody get that spreadsheet? I don't think everybody got it.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's convoluted because a lot of it's all in my mind. I mean, I have it all labeled, but I'll send it. But it's interesting, and you can cross-check back to the audit reports to verify all this information. I also took our budgeted amount and I subtracted out, you know, the alliance from the state and the ECS money, just to look at what the actual city portion of our budget was. And that was very eye-opening to me. I never looked at it that way. So I think we're better together if we could just move forward with discussing what this really is, what this really isn't, what is our real per pupil student cost to the city of Torrington, once we carve out all those grants, and then I think we can make progress. And that's all I'm gonna say.
I don't think it's hard for the city to lose sight, whether it's this administration or the last 5. The more grants we get, they lose sight of what they don't have to provide. And it's easy to lose sight of that. And it's been 15 years in the making, like, maybe longer, but it does have to be addressed from our standpoint, I personally believe. And how do we remedy it?
I think we remedy it by budgeting it in, like, okay,
No, I know, I agree.
interventionists, we can't live without them. We tried it. We know we couldn't live without them. Now they're getting back in, and what's happening? The domino effect, right? Less identifications. So I think we have to say we have 12 positions, and that's just a thrown out number because we'll have to actually look at how many everywhere, but so
As an
for next
institution-
year, we need to commit to put 2 of those in our operating budget, or and 2
And
the
here's
next
the
year,
next.
and 2 the next year.
But
Because
as
we're
an
not gonna be
institution-
able to one year say, hey, here we go, we need $10 million.
But as an institution, we have to make sure, in order to satisfy the other side of the financing, that we make every effort to make sure we don't overstaff, we don't just hire for the sake of hiring, rather than making sure that they're all earning their money and
Right.
we're giving back. I don't know how you do that.
I'll die of old age before Torrington public schools are overstaffed.
Well, I meant, no, I don't mean that. I meant this department that we built. I don't know how many interventionists we need, or social workers, or.
Right.
But we should plan for overstaffing, or it's not even a word, but make sure we keep our promise.
And that's what we're continually evaluating.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Ellen?
Just don't forget that Sue is remote, so if she has any.
Oh,
I think she said she dropped off.
Yeah.
She
jumped off.
couldn't stay awake, she said.
Yeah, sorry.
But she did want that, she was talking about getting the spreadsheet that was discussed last night. She was one of them.
All right, budget committee.
Budget committee, so we went over a lot of the stuff we talked about, but coming up in budget would be the propane bids, food contract, and, updates on Alliance and updates on how this nurse sub pay increase works out, which I'm assuming we're gonna approve that this evening. So we'll get an update to see if it's done any positive, has any positive effect or not.
Thank you. Facilities and tech.
This one's always easy. Windows, roof. The driveway, which has been done already, and then I'll call it security equipment, the slash walkie-talkie slash branch.
Communication system.
Yeah, actually, communications, funny you said that. Security too.
School improvement.
November meeting was at Vogel Wetmore. We heard a report on what's going on there from Mr. Michelson. We learned about Ally's plan for getting the meeting components out there available to us all the time. And if we haven't heard about that yet, that's going to work real well. Would you like to just briefly, for anyone who wasn't at that school improvement meeting? No, but for instance, we got a couple things tonight at this meeting.
They're already there.
And
They're already
I'm
there.
sure they are.
I apologize, I can never explain what you're talking about. So next time I'll ask you to talk about it.
So going on to our website, going to Board of Education and minutes and agendas. So we'll use tonight as an example, Board of Education. And you select either the full board meeting or any subcommittee meeting and go to the date, 11/17, attachments, and you see it, you can change. You see that everything's already there.
I love
What'd you
it.
say?
I would go, very excited. Marissa sent it to me right away.
And to be continued, I'm working on making it searchable, a keyword, which will index everything. So if you're looking for a keyword, it'll find it in the minutes and agendas, and then we will also hot link the videos to it. That'll be work in progress.
Kids
But-
need to remember.
Thank you. Very impressive. Very, very impressive. We also heard about the DC field trip, some changes at the DC field trip to go along with the things that we asked about last spring, and that was a good thing, will be a good thing. We meet this month, December 1st at Forbes, and those of you who haven't had a chance to meet Mr. Klein yet and hear about what's going on in Forbes with the new leadership, will be able to hear that. And we will be starting the facilities realignment discussion. So anyone who wants to be on the ground floor of that, really important. You will get a chance to do it. But I'm sure the highlight, at least in terms of how long it will take, will be Mrs. Creedon's ELL presentation.
No pressure.
We negotiated the length of her presentation. She wasn't happy with only 3 slides, which is what we left. So it's going to be up to her, but she has promised to serve breakfast if she runs too long. So, no, we will have the ELL presentation. Very important program, doing good things. We have high expectations, and we will hear all about it at that meeting. So please attend. Please. Thank you.
Policy committee.
And I'm willing to delay my meeting for as long as it takes, Joanne.
She wants lunch.
Yeah, breakfast and lunch.
If I can go as long as I want, sure.
Just continuing going through the policies. So next we'll be doing the 4,000 series. Anything that's missing, again, will be at Forbes, and discipline.
Building committee. So last month, we gave everyone the graduation requirements. Sorry, it's not presentation. And the enrollment presentations for people to look at. Did anyone have any questions on any of that information? Go ahead.
I think for me, it was more of, the discussion with the city, because it does look when those enrollment projections that are in here, and I don't remember what they were before, it's kind of this, right? And so how do you plan for that?
Right. So what we talked about in building committee was just kind of taking the 10-year average of the newest enrollment. So when we first go in, we go from the 1760 high, but we're really only accounting for 1650 because it's going to drop in the years following. But it will be tight initially, and then may drop off. But, I mean, there's, even in these projections, there's so much that's not predictable, right? Like, largest freshman class this year, why? Is it because of the new building? Is it because of other reasons? There's just no way to, all we can do is our best estimate.
Does that 1650, I'm trying to remember what the number was that was built into,
15.
that was like 1570 or something.
1570 was the original number.
Right.
High number.
So with this, what, 50s, I don't know, 80s more students, does that change at all the square footage or the, that's now allowable?
So it does, but it doesn't change the amount of money you have, so.
Right.
So that's a little bit of a complicated component to this, the way the system, you know, we have to work within the system.
Yeah.
And the system is pretty clear, so we've been meeting with the state and trying to work through this. There was some upheaval at the state. Now it's been resolved, but we don't really know what's gonna happen. I mean, we have another call set up with them for next week, and I think we'll definitively know at that point what's gonna happen. So it may mean that you just have to accommodate the number within the budget you have, which means that you don't really get extra square feet because you don't have any money to pay for the extra square feet. So it's the process, right? I mean, we said it at the referendum, it was the same thing, like you're planning this stuff to put it out, but nothing's really final. It's just, but it's the way school construction is done.
It's the process. If you're looking for reimbursement, this is how the state wants you to do it. And to most people, it doesn't make sense, right?
Exactly.
Right.
It's included.
Right.
Yeah.
Because, you know, you're saying you're only gonna spend this amount of money, but you don't really know how much you're gonna, you know, really need to spend, right?
Right. Yeah.
You know,
That's tough.
until you get into it, right? And COVID hits and then steel costs go up, 110% or something like that, so.
Yes, that's the other big thing. The material costs are up almost 11% total. Steel itself is up 110%. So we're value engineering to look at all of those items. I've learned a lot of new construction terms, but we'll get there. I mean, we've got the best of the best, you know, architects, construction firm, our owner's rep. So we're looking at every square foot of that building. So we'll get there. So, and we obviously don't want to do anything that's going to risk that 85% reimbursement on our existing project. So we'll have to, that'll have to be a factor in all of our decisions. So that's that. So once we have that meeting with the state, we'll provide more information once we know definitively, just so the board's aware of what's happening. All right, liaison reports. Ed, any government information?
No, the legislature's not in session at the moment, so they will start accepting bill submissions from legislators in January. This is a short session this year, so the session will convene, I believe, in early February and should conclude by late May. So it's fast, so they only take submissions for a little while in advance, so.
I think it's the 15th of February.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah.
So they'll start submitting draft legislation, which is really just like a one paragraph concept a little bit before that. So we still have some time before that happens.
Thank you. Gary.
I received an email from Ms. Galillo today. They started a Torrington PAC group. I don't know what PAC stands for, but
Principal Action Committee?
okay, she didn't indicate it. Thank you.
It's
She
more
here?
advisory.
Oh, advisory.
Group of third graders meets with Erica McMurdy and Sarah Hallenbeck during lunch on Fridays. They plan civic involvement events and take the lead on many school-based activities. In a reverse parade for Veterans Day, students decorated all the windows, made signs and gift bags. They invited veterans, were greeted by THS ROTC, and started off presenting with the presentation of the colors. Each student planted American flags in the front lawn before the parade, and the parade caboose is one of the TFD fire trucks, and they were led by Officer DeWine. Pat Cashman, longtime head custodian, had his last day, I guess today. She says today. Staff and students all wore Yankees gear to celebrate Mr. Cashman. They had a staff breakfast, and Mr. Cashman rode the Zamboni through the halls. Students cheered. December 10th, we are participating in the PJ Day for Connecticut Children's Hospital. Staff and students will bring $1, wear pajamas to school. They should raise that to like $5. We had a successful book fair. They met their goal of $10,000. It's a lot of money. Translates to $3,000 for the library. A lot of stuff here, man. I'm going to skip over some of them. Mrs. McMurdy has started the dance team, open to third graders who are interested. They go to this instead of recess, starting a readathon during the month of December. They're participating in the Christmas Village Parade December 12th. The PAC group will be sending out information, decorating a float, and promoting it with all the kids in the month of October. Is it 390 possum certificates were awarded to students who were demonstrating respect, responsibility, and safety. Our students entered into a raffle to win Legos with the principal at a ride on the Zamboni, decorating the halls, and extra recess. Lead team has been busy making calls and home visits to support student engagement. And parent conferences went well. Families had the option to attend in person or remote.
Thank you. Nikki?
For Vogel, they had another harvest event, and it was held in their garden. And the highlight of the day was serving pizza for lunch that was made with their very own basil, which I thought was really cool. They participated in the Veterans Day Parade. They were honored on Channel 3, as Sue had mentioned. Next year, they're hoping, I think as everyone is, to return to some sort of normalcy with a breakfast and indoor assembly. They have been continuing to work hard on reaching their academic goals. Their greatest focus has been on finding the best way to meet the needs of each of the students. They've been working hard to make sure every student makes growth each day. Upcoming events with Thanksgiving approaching, they have a couple fun events. One is a Disguise the Turkey activity. This will happen at home. So thank you for making us parents participate in that. And to help make the hallways more fun, students that want one will take a picture of a turkey to put a disguise on. Some suggestions are a snowman or a pirate. And this goes along with the book called Turkey Trouble. Another activity will be to share moments of gratitude over the PA system. So each hour, a staff member will get on and share something that they or their class are grateful for. If the principal gets a turn, he will share that he is grateful for the families and staff members at Vogel. They also have a couple of spirit days leading up to Thanksgiving. And with all the parents, thank you, being so busy, we tried to make them easy ones, mismatch day, and dress in your favorite color.
Okay, Forbes, their Veterans Day celebration was a great success. They honored their local veterans with a reverse parade. They created thank you notes and letters, and they sent them to the VA hospitals. They spent time on a military truck, and they created a heartwarming video, a tribute video that was shared throughout the school on the following day. Their student leadership committee has a food drive this Saturday morning at Big Y and Class Cutters. And their book fair took place, and it was the best book fair to date. They had over $6,000 in sales, and the school received book donations for the library of over $2,000. Parent-teacher conferences were very well attended, with almost 80% of the families attending, and they conducted exactly 400 parent conferences. So, and I just happened to pick up that Mr. Klein is busy every 2 weeks doing his coffee hour with the principals, with families and with the principal. He does a Zoom meeting every 2 weeks and meets and greets parents. So busy times. All right.
I actually forgot to get one, not intentionally, just got so
You got a
busy.
little bit
and
going on.
Yeah, but what I did was I did reach out, and when I get it, I'll forward it to everybody. Okay.
Thank you. Jeff?
So there was no committee meeting this month for the school governance. And then I also failed to reach out to Principal Liversis and ask her for a report, so I don't have a formal report.
Third and fourth of December.
Thank you. Armin says that the play is the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th of December. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
And actually, one thing I was gonna say, I do know that there's a football game here on Thanksgiving, which is quite the big deal. If you are not home cooking turkey.
10
come on out.
o'clock, right? Usually?
Something like that, yeah.
It is a 10 o'clock start.
One thing I will say, if you guys are on Instagram, if people are on Instagram or Facebook, social media, the high school has been doing a really great job with their social media stuff. And so like I could sit here and pretend I wrote this report while I just scroll through the THS Raiders Instagram and say, they had THS Spirit Week, they're doing a Torrington fundraiser, raising money for food bank, where the staff members could have dressed like a turkey all day. There's all sorts of fun stuff. They had a food drive where they collected 850 items for Friendly Hands Food Bank. So there's a lot of great stuff that if you just want to stay plugged in throughout the course of the month, and I can describe the pictures, but I won't do them justice. So that would be my recommendation to you in lieu of my report because I forgot. What's that? Oh, yes, the faculty volleyball game. What day is that?
Next week.
Next week.
Is it probably Tuesday?
Faculty against the kids.
Yes, thank you. It's a fundraiser for the volleyball game. And that means I probably should have it on my calendar.
Oh, one thing I did do is I did videotape the car parade coming up, because I live on Charles Street, from the high school on Veterans Day. I was waving to everybody, so I videotaped that parade, and I think it stopped at 24th and the middle school, that parade, so. So I did, and I sent the video to Ally. I'm sure she was gonna put some sort of montage together of that day, so.
Tuesday, November
Put it
23rd.
Put it on the Google Drive. Thank you.
There you go.
Yes. Tuesday, November 23rd at 7. There's a fundraising volleyball game. Is it $5 to enter, to watch?
If you can enter a team of 6 to play, it's $60. $5 to get it.
And that goes to support the girls volleyball.
Good idea.
The Board of Ed would like to put a team in. I've never recovered from when we entered a dodgeball. The dodgeball that year. We did, and we were literally cowering in the corner, and the senior boys were plummeting us.
I'll tell you, maybe-
Awful.
Is that what they do?
Ellen was the last one.
No, okay.
It's still-
Yeah. All right, Ellen, your report?
Ed Advance is going through its annual audit, and by the time they got to me, the poor auditor was so bored, he just really didn't have anything to ask. But I guess things are going well financially. Highlight of the Board of Directors meeting was a presentation by the people who've been piloting a state program to improve and make uniform the IEP process. So yes, finally, you'll be able to go from school district to school district.
Yeah.
The terms will be the same,
Yeah.
and everything will be able to fit up and make it a lot easier to get kids transferred and so on. It'll also give some internal integrity to the things, because there will be new standards for the way they're written in local districts. And that's about,
What a concept.
yeah. Well, yeah, fine, but eventually we get things right. They'll probably stop using IEPs and PPTs now that they've got that. But anyway, that's it for Ed Advance.
All right, thank you. All right, I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the final budget 2021.
21, 22. Yep.
22.
Yes, no, that's
You're
correct.
Yep,
That's correct.
never to be seen again now.
Yeah,
Okay.
this is the end.
Yeah, but shouldn't it be, I'm sorry, that's my confusion. It should be 2021.
Not this current year.
Right. Okay, entertain a motion to approve the final budget of 2020, 2021.
Second. Nikki?
All those in favor?
Wish her.
Gary.
Gary, thank you.
Entertain a motion to approve the monthly financials.
Move.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Who moved? Armin, thank you. Can you just
Say your name.
Yes.
say your name and, okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Enter a motion to approve the busing to carriage limousine with the authority to the business manager if she could provide morning busing for the same rate or less by any company, that the board would just be informed after if she could do it.
So moved. Kisco.
Second, thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Entertain a motion to approve the increased nurse sub pay rate.
So moved. Ed.
Second, Kathy.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Entertain a motion to approve the ECS 2% budget.
So moved. Ed.
Second, Gary.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Entertain a motion to approve the Alliance update.
So moved. Kisco.
Second, Gary.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Entertain a motion to approve the Torrington parent driveway
Bid.
to, I'm sorry, I forgot the name of the company.
RAR.
RAR.
So moved.
So,
Second.
All those in favor?
Gary.
aye.
Gary and Nikki?
Gary.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Entertain a motion to approve policy number 3022 and 3023 as a bundle.
So moved. Kathy.
Second, Armin.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Entertain a motion to approve professional development on March 25th. And is it okay to remove the half day on 3/17?
You moving the 17th to the 24th though?
No.
No, just removing it
Just
altogether.
We're not gonna have a half day on the 7th.
So moved. Kisco.
Second, Gary.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Entertain a motion to approve the field trips in a bundle unless someone wants to separate out one of the field trips.
I'll move them as a consent agenda.
Second, Gary.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, pending the safety information.
Entertain a motion to approve the Board of Education regular meeting minutes from October 27, 2021.
So moved. Gary.
Second, Nikki.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Entertain a motion to receive the committee meeting minutes.
So moved. Second. Kisco.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Entertain a motion to receive the consent agenda.
So moved. Armin. Second. Kisco.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Items for upcoming agenda, possibly have some contracts for our staff, different bargaining units maybe, December. Budget,
Board reorganization.
yes, we'll have board leadership votes in December. We'll have
Possible new member.
possible new member. Maybe, maybe in December.
Yeah, it should.
Good. Probably by January.
And then just if any board members that just got elected are not gonna go to the swearing in at the city, just let us know. We'll arrange to have something here because you have to be sworn in before you participate in that meeting in December. So if you're not going to the group swearing in, Ellen happens to be able to do swearing in, so it works out to our benefit.
I can
but
swear in.
She can swear
She
people
swears
in.
well.
But just let me know either way so that we know who has to get sworn in or not.
Nice.
Oh, sorry, go ahead. Jen.
No, I have two things. One, and we had mentioned this last time, and then the speaker brought this up about the structure of public comment. Can we look at that in one of our meetings, whether or not?
It would have to go back, we can send it to policy because it's part of the bylaws, so policy
Yeah,
would
I
have
get
to,
something, John.
we'd have to change the policy.
That's fine, and I might actually have something else for you, Ellen, I know you're super excited.
I am.
But I'd like to look at the mask policy again, because the policy that we voted on in September specifically says that students will not be required to wear face masks or coverings during physical education classes. And it also says that teachers and staff may be excused from wearing a face mask or covering while teaching, provided they are properly socially distancing or remaining static behind a physical barrier. We haven't been practicing that. We haven't been allowing either of those exemptions. And my understanding was that was because there was a municipal mask mandate in place. Based on what I saw at the Board of Finance meeting last night, I'm going to assume that there is no longer a municipal mask mandate being enforced. So I would like to see if there is any potential impact on our buildings and what we are asking our staff and students to do.
So that, we'll put that to policy too, because it's our policy. Anything else? I mean, we're really getting to the point where now everything's gonna be budget. Comments for the good of the order?
Just really quickly, I want to say my own thank you and congratulations to Mr. Benicia. It's going to be interesting times doing the budget this year without you, or rather with you sort of on the end of the process now. So I certainly have appreciated all of your hard work and wisdom in the budget committee meetings, and you will be sincerely missed, but congratulations on your election to the council.
Thank you.
Exactly what he said. It'd be nice to have somebody on their side.
Won't be for long.
No pressure. Just said no pressure.
Nikki.
No, just the same. Thanks, Armand. You've been great helping onboard newbie, so I appreciate all your insight. And I got to see Mr. Cashman at Torrington during drop-off. He had a little sign that said, "Today is my last day." People were honking and waving, and he said he's been with the district for like 33 years. Got a little teary-eyed as we were kind of like, everyone was waving by. So just wanted to recognize him.
Armand, thank you for sitting next to me and sharing all of your knowledge. I met Armand first as a parent, so it was really nice to come back and sit next to you and as a board member. And I appreciate all of your insight and all that you've done for the board. And just, it was a good meeting. Also, thank you to everybody for all the hard work you put in the reports. And I'm so glad that Laura got to go.
It's painful to listen.
She will, she has a long ride, so thank you for that.
Thank you, everybody. I appreciate my time on the board. I learned a lot. And for those who have been on the board, a while, remembering back from when you were first on the board, you're like, what did I get into, right? Yeah. But things definitely got better as we went along from when I was first on the board about 5 or 5.5 years ago. So it's been good. And thank you for all the well wishes. And I think Nikki made a strong presented some strong evidence tonight without knowing it, I think, to be the next budget chair. With all her questions and her ideas. So.
Wow.
I
don't know if I should
She
be
she made a strong case tonight, I thought, with her ideas. And they're very good. So, but thank you, everybody. I appreciate everybody brings something different, which is much needed in what we do. We do a lot.
Jeff?
Thank you, Armin, also for all of your work. I don't know if you guys saw this, but there was an article in Sunday's Republican, it was called Breaking the Sound Barrier, Speech Impaired Pupils Try to Recover from Pandemic's Impact. And our Laura was quoted in this article, as were many other people. In this article focused specifically on special ed students, students with speech delays, autism, things like that, and the negative impact of things like distance learning and masking and what that's had on them. And there were some people a year ago that were saying, this is gonna happen. And lo and behold, here we are. And I bet a year from now, we're gonna see articles in the paper about the impact of masks on student anxiety and behavioral issues and lack of human connection. I would love to see us try to get in front of this, and I know that we're bound to the state and what the state says, but in areas where we do have leniency, I hope that we as a board will have opportunities and make opportunities to consider masking as all of the different aspects of that, not just the possibility of it being source control and the other impacts it has on our students.
Oh,
You gotta read this, Armin. It's great working with you. Echo what everyone else said. And a great meeting.
Armand, thank you. We're going to miss you. I'm sure we're going to miss you, I have no doubt. I went to the parade, the Veterans Parade at Southwest School. And as I walked up, the kindergartners were just standing at their place and they were bringing kids out. It takes a long time to get a whole school full of kids out on the sidewalk. So as I was walking past, the grades are going up, and I stood behind my great-grandson with the 5th grade. Kids were out there probably 10 minutes, especially the younger kids were out there the longest, and probably they were out there 15 or 20 minutes, waving to cars, random cars, and people blowing their horns and waving to the kids, but they were very well behaved. Some had signs, they had flags, and things, very well behaved. And then the vets came through, and just an absolutely great time for everyone. But what it always surprises me, the classroom management techniques that elementary teachers have. Those kids are just perfectly behaved. My lawyer drove past in his little sports car and wrote a letter to the editor today in the Republican, Sam Slade, explaining just what it meant to him as a veteran. And the last thing I want to say is school improvement deals with our community partners, one of whom is CAFTA, one of which is CAFTA. And they got an award for their child program in the schools, presented to them in Agrigento, Sicily. And John and Teresa went to receive that in person. Part of what they did was bring a video with greetings from Sue and from Eleanor. And they played it as part of this 2-hour ceremony. Sue and Eleanor were up there for like maybe 45 seconds or a minute each, just saying how happy they were to have the program in the schools and what it meant to Torrington. So our reach, Sue's reach at least, Eleanor's reach at least, Sicily. So anyway, it was a good week for our community partners.
thank you. Again, thank you, Armand. We will miss you. Enjoyed working with you. I was trying to remember the other day when you were first appointed, and then I remembered you replaced Andrew Nargi.
How did you remember that?
Yes, John helped me remember that. We were trying to figure it out. But thank you for your time and the time away from your family, because I think when people are not on the board, they don't really understand the time commitment of this board. So you're gaining some free time, so that's a good thing. But thank you. One of the great things about Torrington is this community, and I went to the Friendly Hands fundraiser that they had at the Elks a couple weeks ago. Happened to run into Mr. Klein, who was there. Had some fun bidding with some other community members, but you could not walk in the Elks, and anyone that's been in the Elks knows how big the Elks is. You could not move, and they raised over $20,000. So this town, whenever somebody needs it, people come out. They have over 840 families that registered for Thanksgiving. So it was really great that people supported it, and now if they can figure out the turkey shortage, they'll be good. Teen Center, if you get an opportunity, stop down. Donna, everyone has been working so hard, volunteers in the community, and it looks amazing, and kudos to all those people. fabulous that they're all volunteering and they've been doing a lot of hours on it. So hopefully at some point, maybe the board can, I don't want to say go on tour, but hopefully maybe we can schedule a time where we can go down and people can see it. We've had volunteers just, fixing pool tables, putting things together, there's computers, like it really is going to be a safe place for kids to be. So I encourage everyone to look at it.
Did you tell them it opens there Thursday's the first one?
Thursday's the opening.
Tomorrow, yeah.
Yeah.
What time is that?
Oh,
Yeah, it's like
for-
1 to 5, something like that.
Yeah. We'll get you those times.
Yeah.
just
Because
curious.
it's different than
I was
the
thinking it
regular
was next
times.
Thursday, but that's.
Yeah, no. Yeah, so they're just trying to start it and then it will be Monday through Thursday in the future. We'll get you the times.
And the highlight of my Mother's Week was seeing that if the kids at Forbes read enough books, that Mr. Klein is gonna read a book from the roof of Forbes School.
I heard they did it. I heard they did it.
So,
You reading at the river? It is.
Oh, wow.
be on Friday.
Friday.
Wow, what time is that?
We will live stream it, there's a Zoom link, I think it's at 1:30.
Wow, good for you.
Good luck, be
Kids are
safe.
so excited.
That's cute.
And then lastly, I really want to wish everyone, the board members, the staff in the building, central office staff, a restful Thanksgiving, hoping that people actually take some time off next week and unwind. It has been a rough few months and everybody deserves a break. So please take the time, enjoy it with your families. More work to be done right after Thanksgiving, so 12:30 to 5:30 is the open house for the teen center. Does everyone know where the teen center is behind Houston Park?
Yeah, Albert Street. Is that Albert or East Albert? It's Albert.
It's right on the
It's Albert.
East Albert.
It's East Albert.
All right, future meetings, Monday, December 1st, school improvement policy.
That should be
Is
Wednesday.
that Wednesday?
Yeah.
Oh, it's Wednesday, sorry. Wednesday, December 8th, facilities and budget at Midgen. Wednesday, December 15th, we will be at high school. And entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second, Kathy.
All those in favor?
Aye.